All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming, Chad. This is Chad Zawacki with Merrill Lynch. Going to talk to us about some 401k. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to him.
Thank you. That's unfair. So he's got like zero gray hair. It's way so I think I recognize almost everybody. Is there new faces? I have one token man with me, now two. So that's an improvement. So who's new? Who doesn't recognize me? A couple of people? Okay, for all the people who are not new that recognize me, what's the best part about your plan? Don't let me down. Best part about your plan? Come on, somebody help me out.
There's a match.
There's a match. So what's a match? So for those of you who are new to the 401k or forgot what I said last time, which is all of you, what's the match? What's so cool about the match? Why is that the best part of the plan?
It's free money.
Free money. I said that in front of a business owner once and he reminded me, this is not free. It comes right from, but it's free money. So all I have to do to get it is what?
Contribute to.
Yeah. So raise your hand really high if you don't want to raise. So the rest of us can make fun of you. You don't want to raise? Oh. Okay, start in.
What's wrong with your arm?
It's a wise love. So that matches, if I put in 4% of my money, I could get 4% in additional compensation from MDM, right? So again, raise your hand if you don't want that. So everybody should be doing a minimum of 4%. So if I'm new here and I said, what do I need to know about Merrill Lynch, about the 401k? Nothing. All you need to know about what the match is. The match is 4%. Don't do less than 4%. Now, do you remember last year? Just lie, fake it, and just go like this. Nothing. I want you to do at least 4%. So if I put a 4% of my own money, I'm getting 8%, right? Now, the match comes from company profitability. So if the company were to have a bad year, that match could go down, or in some cases I've had clients take it away because they couldn't afford to do it. Every year that I've been working with MDM, which is quite a number of years now, you guys have always done a match, right? So that's a testament to everybody in the room and your ownership. So I got a couple things that I'm going to hopefully go through today. So for those of you who are in the 401k, how many people raise your hand? I'll get technical. What's your concerns about 401k? How the statements look? I got a couple slides, hopefully we'll bring back up here in a minute. Did anybody look at their year-end statement? So got it in January, it was as of the end of the year. What'd you notice? The end of the year was really tough last year, right? December was the worst December back to 1931. So I've got a couple slides, we'll walk through them real fast. But it was a really tough end of the year. So we had a fairly decent year up until the last quarter. October was rough, that sometimes happened. November was mediocre, and December was a disaster. Again, worst disaster, worst performance since 1931. Since that time, beginning of this year, has anybody looked at the statements lately?
Mine was good.
Yeah, stock market's running again. So just as weird as December was, we had huge losses.
I'll be right back.
We had a complete run back in the market. So I'm gonna jump ahead to the presentation, then if we get the computer back up and running, we'll go backwards. Can you pull this out? Everybody's got one right in front. Does anybody not have it? I want you to turn it over to the shorter list on the back side of that. So number one thing, if I'm starting here tomorrow and I pull you aside and I say, hey, what do I need to know about 401k? The first thing I want you to tell me about is that match, right? Most important thing about the plan. Do not miss the extra 4% in income you get. The second thing I want you to tell me is I want you to tell me about this list, right? The other side, which we're going to talk about a lot, it's confusing to most normal people. Most normal people don't want to pick their mutual funds. They don't understand all the names. They don't understand what they do. So we built you these. So if you look at the names of these, I've got the retirement model for those people that are past retirement age. I've got 2015 all the way down to 2055. What do those four numbers mean? Anybody hazard a guess?
The year you want to retire.
Yeah. So some people say, well, I don't know what that is. So take your birthday plus 65 years and get close to one of those. So the genius behind those, if you choose one of these, we'll take and choose the funds for you. When you get your statement or you go online, you'll see all the funds we put you in. Some of you know this already because you use them, right? So you can simply pick the one that matches your retirement year. We'll initially pick all your investments. Once a quarter, we'll rebalance them. And what are we going to do each year as you get closer to retirement?
Keep more conservative.
Yeah, how come? it's absolutely right.
For a safer investment.
Yep, so she said, for those of you who didn't hear it, the closer you get to retirement, will make you more and more conservative. We'll take out the risk of the portfolio. And simply said, the closer I get to retirement, the less I can suffer the market declines or a drawdown of my savings and rebound, because I don't have the time left. Does that make sense? So if I'm picking my own investments on this side, then I've got to do that myself. I've got to rebalance probably once a year, and then as I get closer to retirement, I want to be safer and safer and safer. Or you've got this option. How much extra does this cost you? Absolutely nothing. So you can build it yourself, or for no extra cost, we'll build it for you and then monitor it as we go forward. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the goal manager options? No questions about them? Let's go back to the front page. So every year I've come out here, even when you were in your old location, I've organized your mutual funds, your options in this order. So at the top I have your safest option, at the bottom I have your most risky. So can you give me just a minute? See this column right here? The title of it is Investment Objective. That's really the only important column. So I need to understand what the person's doing with my money. So these are all just names of different companies, and they're somewhat descriptive of what they do. But this investment objective tells you exactly what they're how they're gonna invest your money. These numbers change constantly. It's just performance. It's changing as I'm standing here. So if you look at that top one, stable value, the number one option, or the number one goal for the stable value, don't lose any money. So if I'm not taking any risk, how much return do I get? How much return do you get in a savings account? Almost nothing, right? So that's not going to help us get to retirement. If you look at the returns year to date, up 1.2, 1 year return 197, so very little return. The next four down, if you look at that investment objective, anytime you see the word bond in this lineup, bond, I want you to think of safe stuff. As I go down the list, it gets a little bit more risky, but a bond is really a loan. So I'm taking my money and I'm borrowing it to somebody else, they promise to pay me back and they give me an interest rate. That's simple, right? Mortgages are a type of bond. So if you look at the top one, inflation adjusted bond. That one I'm going to tell you right now, we're not afraid of inflation. We're afraid of the opposite. What are we afraid of now? It starts with R.
Recession.
Yeah, that's what everybody's talking about, right? When's it going to happen? And I'm going to say it's not if, it is when, right? And we've had a wonderful market for about 10 years, so we're probably closer to a recession than farther away. You guys have lived through, you ladies have lived through recessions. You didn't even know it happened. They were so mild. And I'm hoping that's probably what we're looking at likely next year. What happens next year? What's the big news?
Election.
Oh my gosh, it's just going to be so fun, right? You'll all watch TV, ready for those commercials. We spend extra time on the morning shows so we can hear from them too. What's the problem with the elections, especially lately? A lot of people hugging each other, saying nice things about each other, right? That's the problem. No, nothing. It's all extremes, right? Hire her and she'll increase your taxes. Hire her and she's going to take away your puppy. Hire her and you're not going to have any medical care. Right? So it's never anything good, right? Humans, and especially American humans, we're kind of predictable. If you give me a steady diet of negative stuff, what do? Yeah, that is a byproduct. The other thing I do is nothing. I don't buy a new car, I don't add on to the house, I don't build a deck, I don't go on a big European vacation. So what happens when the consumer stops doing a lot of that stuff? The economy stalls, right? So I think if it's likely, the recession probably is next year, and it's probably minor. It's not because there's anything wrong, it's because we're sick of the commercials, we're sick of the rhetoric. It doesn't matter which side you're on. With me? Okay, so don't take the bait, don't get depressed. I think it's minor, and it's overdue. Markets really had a good run of it. So the recession word we think is terrible. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's not, in my eyes, it's not this year. It's likely next year, more to do with the election, just the fact that we're tired of it, right? When that happens, should I go in and sell all my stuff? No. So one of the biggest mistakes that investors make is they buy and sell at the wrong times, right? So if I have something going down in price, do you want to buy it or sell it? Let me say it to you different. If I walk into Target and the towels that I've been wanting forever, those really cool Egyptian ones, they're half price. They went down. Do you want to buy them or? Right. Stock market. Stock that you really like for a long time. It goes down by half price. But you know what? Humans don't want to do that, right? Okay, let me get straight. It lost half its value. Now you want me to buy it? Humans want to buy it when it goes up, right? Which is just like Target. You want to buy things on sale. So if I'm right and something happens next year and the market's not great, I want you to remember that you're all going in and buying the stuff, right? Just like towels, just like cars, houses, I want to buy it when I get a good value. So the market going down, as long as I'm still working and trying to accumulate money, that's not bad, because you're in there buying it all the time. It's not the right time to be selling stuff. Again, if I use these models, I don't have to worry about that. We're doing that for you. All you're doing is adding money. If I'm doing this on my own, then I have to understand, okay, which ones are giving me risk, which ones am I comfortable with? So number one, stable value. The next four, I'm bonds, I'm borrowing my money to somebody. If you put a star by number 6, number 6 is the only one in your list that has both stock and bonds. Bonds being the loans, right? Also, if you look at the name of that, BlackRock Global Allocation. Remember when you were in 2nd grade, in the corner of the classroom, there's this little round thing, we called it globe? So every once in a while, when markets go down, especially in the United States, I'll have somebody call me and be really angry. Hey, I'm in that global fund, the market's collapsing, why am I going down? Market's collapsing? I don't know, I get it. Where are we going? Well, I'm not in the United States. If it says global, think of that globe in the middle of in the corner of the room. The United States is on it. You're in it, right? So a global is different from the international. Look at the bottom there. Number 15, number 16, number 17, number 18. Those are all overseas, not U.S. So if I want overseas exposure, other countries, then I want to be in those down there. Where are they on the list? What does that mean?
Risky.
Yeah, there are more risky options. So if you go onto the system and look at the lineup of funds, you're not going to see this lineup. This is the one our team did to try to help you look at this and say, okay, the top ones are they're safer, and the bottom ones are higher risk. 7, 8, and 9. What size companies? Look back at the column that matters. What size companies are they investing in? Large. So right in the middle of the page, right? Moderate risk, they're not super high risk, and they're not conservative. So as I go down in the size company, I go from large to mid to small. What's happening to my risk? It's going up, right? Again, I don't have to worry about any of that if I'm just doing the models. If I'm picking my own, then I want to know, okay, where's my risk coming from? Look at the returns, year-to-date returns. Number 8's up 26. Number 13's up 20. And if you go one more column to the right, the one-year returns, where's all my losses? Towards the bottom, where the risk was, right? So the last quarter of last year really took away a lot of the,
I don't remember, I lost like $4,000.
now it's coming back.
Yeah.
Should I leave now or just like yell at me in front of everybody?
No, I just thought about it. You were telling one of my employees about it.
So this is not the time to sell. That is the time to add money. But it's hard to do when you get a statement that's kind of ugly. If I have a recession, can anybody tell me what a recession is? Most people don't know. It's 2 quarters. It's 2 quarters of underperformance in our GDP, right? So it's looking backwards. So to know that we're in a recession, 2 quarters have to go by. By the time we realize we're in a recession, we could actually be out of it. That happens from time to time. Your statements, are they forward-looking or are they backwards-looking? Yeah, look at what just happened, right? That's like these numbers here. They don't tell you anything about what you're investing in. They tell you what just happened, but that's not very helpful.
Right.
The only thing that I have that's close to a crystal ball is where am I investing the money? That tells you a little bit about what's coming. How do you feel about international stuff? If we have problems, there's some countries overseas that have much worse things going on, right?
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to jump up. By the way, this is always part of my job. Come out here and talk to you guys. And I have my friend here in the back to defend me, because sometimes these ladies are hard on me. They're there for me, right? I'm counting on you. This is the rest of my group, and they don't get to do this, which I feel bad. So Angela, my partner for 19 years. Michael's been here for, I think, 5. Les for almost 8. And then Heather's started 2 weeks before me. So I've been there about 22 years. She's been there almost as long. You have people in the field. I think most of you are managers of different locations. You have people in the field that call us on a regular basis. I love it. And I tell Shell and Diana, you guys have some of the most polite people. A lot of them, English isn't super strong, so they will apologize and start over again, and they're really nice people. So a lot of you, actually, when you call in, you may talk to Heather or Les me first. And you get a kick out of your whole group. So some of you go on statements. Does anybody go online? How often do you go online? Is it hard? Pretty easy. Anybody else go online? It's really easy, isn't it? If you're not doing that and you want help doing that, the site is, so Michael, who was up on the screen a minute ago, you get on the phone with him, he will walk you through the steps to get online. I don't even get statements anymore. Statements are like a month old. That doesn't do me any good. I can go online and see what happened yesterday. So if you guys aren't doing this and want help doing that, please let me know and we'll help have you get online. Again, as I said just a minute ago, the S&P 500 had its worst December since 1931. What was going on in our country in 1931? A little thing called the Depression, right? So it was a huge, negative period in our market, and that's how far back you have to go to get the losses that we saw just in the month of December. So last year we ended up down almost 6%. SP ends up down over 6%. NASDAQ had its worst December ever. So this week, go home tonight and watch the news. Who watched the news? So you don't watch the news. It's all good stuff, right? Somebody was born, somebody was 100. This is what we hear. So over here, anybody ridden on an airplane? A couple people once. So you're sitting on an airplane, you got this goofball sitting next to you. The pilot has indicated we're going to experience a little turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelt. What happens shortly after that? Panic. Maybe, for him, that's exactly right. We're going to die! So, you know, the news, it's usually not real positive, right? What are they trying to get you to do? What's the news's goal? Do not step away from the TV. We're going to be right back after a couple messages. Once you get through the messages, right? That's how they get paid. But they take the turbulence and change it into something that keeps you in your seat or that will glue you there or bring you back to their channel. I think we're going to hear a lot of this next year. And so my fear is I have really good clients. We have really good people we work with just like you. And they're just going to be picked on for the next 18 months by every political side there is, making sure that the only perspective you're looking at is theirs. Don't take the bait. Right? You're not going to die, it's just those stupid turbulence. Here's my other favorite one. Without looking at this now, if I said the stock market likes which side of the aisle? Hey, so by the way, I didn't ask for your permission. Can we talk about politics for just a little bit without anybody getting mad at me? And I promise I won't get mad at you. Is that fair? Just a little bit. So, when I talk to intelligent people and I ask them, which side of the aisle do presidents like? What's the response I get? Most of the time. And yes? Democrat? What else? Or Republicans, right? Neither one of you are right. The market doesn't care. And so we went back and we looked at every presidential election, and so you hopefully recognize a couple names on here. So Hoover versus Smith.
Oh man.
Good Lord.
Just all right.
And I need to remind you that.
This computer is driving me insane.
I don't know how to do that though. There it is. Oh, you remind me next week. There we go.
Gotta go full.
So when I bring that back up, I want you to run down the presidents. You know, some that are Republican, some that are Democrat. Thank you very much. Okay. And so Obama, first year that Obama was up against McCain, we're down 37. The next year, next 4 year, up 16. How about Clinton versus, so Clinton, very strong Democrat, up 7, up 23. Reagan, strong Republican, up 32, up 6. Kennedy, flat for that year. Eisenhower, Republican. Truman, very much a Democrat, up 5. Roosevelt, a Democrat, up 19. Down 9, up 33. There's no pattern. So you can't pick a president and say, well, now this is going to happen to the market. It doesn't work that way. So next time somebody says, hey, which side does it like? Doesn't care. Right? Doesn't care about Trump, doesn't care if he's doing a good job or not. They just want a predictable path. Right? So I would tell you that it doesn't matter who gets elected next year. It does for us, both for the country. A couple checkup items for you. So every time I come here, I ask you the same question. And so this last year we went through and tried to look for the number of people, especially in your organization, that are changing their beneficiaries. So you think it was a lot or a little? Very little, right? So it scares me a little bit, because I assume that some of you are getting married, some of you are having kids, some of us might be getting divorced. I want to make sure that you're keeping this up to date. So what's my primary beneficiary? If I'm married, probably my spouse. My contingent beneficiary is what if something happens to me and my spouse? Yeah, kids oftentimes. Sometimes I don't have kids, maybe it's brother, sister, mom, or dad. But when people only have their spouse here, I gotta tease them. Are you married? Are you married? So do you like your husband?
I do.
Is he a good driver?
He is not.
Every time! Not a good driver. Okay, so husband takes them both out. If I only have a primary beneficiary, what happens to her money? Zilwaukee, Z-A-W. If I don't have a beneficiary, it goes through something called probate. Probate court tries to decide who rightfully gets the money. And then they charge my estate to do that. It's not good use of money, people. So don't fall for that. I want to have a primary, and especially if I live with my primary, I want to have a contingent, right? So if you think about Old England or even us, if I die, the first question is, if I don't have a beneficiary, is Chad married? If the answer is no, does Chad have living kids? If the answer is no, does Chad have living parents? If the answer is no, does Chad have living siblings? And they just keep going. There's a cost to doing that, and you short circuit that by having the beneficiary and contingent right. I went through a really bad divorce. Nasty person. Buy a gun, change the locks. I forget to change my primary beneficiary. I die. What happens? So 22 years, I've never had that happen. And I don't want it to happen to any of you, right? So I'm begging you, if you can't tell me with 100% certainty who your primary beneficiary is, please go change that. Please go check that. Fair? Please have a contingent. If you don't have kids, I get it. Then please have brother, sister, mother, whoever. Are you getting the full match? Best thing about the plan, right? We have some new people here, which I love. What's the match? 4, right? Should I stop there? Please don't stop there. And that's my next ask is, can you afford to do one more? Every time you see my face, I'm going to ask that. Can you afford to put away 1% more for yourself? Okay. If it's not on Mother's Day or Father's Day or birthday, the review day or raise day, make sure you make a commitment to yourself. That's how we're going to retire. Raise your hand really high if you have pensions. I don't either. We have one pension. That doesn't really exist, so it's going to be on us. So please add 1%. My next one I'm going to spend a little bit of time with. Who remembers that discussion? Roth or no Roth? What's the difference?
Roth is post-tax, and
Yeah.
no Roth is pre-tax, so.
Yep, so we're going to spend a little bit more time on that because two things I don't see happening here, and it's okay. First one's not. I don't see people changing their beneficiaries. That worries me. So either you have very even, nice, calm lives, which is great, or you guys are going through life's changes and you're not updating the beneficiary. Number 2 does bother me, and that is I don't see a lot of people dabbling in this. You guys are young, so you should be considering that. So that probably means I'm doing a crappy job of explaining it. I don't want to do a crappy job, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Then we're going to talk about asset allocation. Asset allocation, you can absolutely tune me out. Don't listen to me if you do these, the models, right? The goal manager models, that's what we do for you. Asset allocation is simply choosing enough investments around different areas so that if something goes wrong in the United States, I have some international. Something goes wrong overseas, I have some United States. Something goes wrong in the big little companies, I got big companies. That's an asset allocation. If that sounds like no fun at all, do a model. They'll take care of it. Okay, so let's spend a little time on Roth. So the traditional 401k, which most of us do, I spent my career, at the beginning of my career, telling people put money in a 401k and you don't have to pay income tax on the money. Right? So I save $1 and only about 70 cents comes out of my check because I don't pay income tax on that. It's not a bad deal, right? I pay less tax today. When I retire, I've got all that money sitting in a traditional 401k. What happens when I start taking that money out? I gotta pay income tax. I've never paid tax on that money. And in fact, when I put it in the 401k, it grows and I don't have to pay tax on that either. But so we all know, then when I start taking it out, I have to pay income tax. So deducted from my pay pre-tax, tax upon withdrawal, at age 70 and a half, they're gonna start forcing it out. I have to start taking it out and spending it, whether I need it or not, doesn't matter. And they came up with something called a Roth 401k. And so hopefully when I get done with that, you say, well, that's kind of a good deal. Why would they do that? So there's a senator with the last name Roth, and one of the things that he recognized many years ago is we're not saving enough. And if you don't have enough in retirement, what happens to your lifestyle? Wow, I really like a sandwich, but I kind of need that cholesterol medicine, and the heat sure feels good. Wonder which one I should pick. Right? So the idea is to save enough so I don't have to go through that decision making. what he said is we gotta give them an incentive. We have to give Americans an incentive to put money away. So here's the deal. We're gonna let you put money in the Roth 401k today, but you have to pay taxes, right now. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a bad thing about that. You pay taxes right now, I put the money in the 401k and I take the money out. How much do I owe in income tax? Now, let's go slow. Let's put real numbers to it. Let's say I save $100,000 over my full career. And that $100,000 grows. Let's say over 30 years, maybe it doubles. So now I have $200,000 in my savings. If it's in the traditional 401k, I pay tax on nothing. As I take that money out, what do I have to do? Pay taxes. Okay, where does it pay? My Roth 401k, I put the $100,000 in and I paid taxes on the way in. It's 200 grand. I start taking money out. What happens?
You take the.
How come? I didn't pay taxes on the growth. How come?
Because insurance is billing that when you pay it, the tax is already on that.
She's absolutely right. So there's the gift. The gift is if I'm willing to pay taxes today, I can take the growth out and never pay income taxes. Sounds like a pretty good deal, doesn't it? Here's the only problem with it. I took a person that makes, say, $1,000 every week, every 2 weeks, every month. So the person makes $1,000 and they're putting in 10%. So $100 comes off their check. So the traditional 401k, they're only taxed on $900 because I don't pay tax on it. In a Roth 401k, I make the same $1,000, I put it all in a Roth, so I'm taxed on how much? So if you follow that down, federal income tax at 22%, I have to pay 198 versus the 220. Why is this one paying more? Pay tax on that amount that they save for themselves, right? Wait for the good stuff. Minnesota state income tax, 63 versus 70. My take home is 638 if I do the normal and 609. So the problem with the Roth is what? If I do the Roth, I'm gonna take less pay home now to get what? Well, let's do it extremes. Let's have some fun. Let's say that you really like this, you keep working for MDM, MDM keeps doing that match for a long time. Let's say you're lucky enough to have $1 million in a 401k. By the time we all retire, because we're young, by the time we retire, we won't have the same meaning, because stuff goes up in value. But let's say you have $1 million. Which one of these would you like to have $1 million in? Oh my gosh, hands down, right? $1 million in this means that you probably have about 600 grand, depending on how fast you take it out, because you have to pay income taxes. $1 million in that means I did pay income taxes along the way. So I was willing to take less money home. And some of us can't do that. If you're living close, then this is a better option. If I'm struggling to make a house payment, rent payment, car payment, whatever that is, then do this one. But if you say, okay, I'm not struggling, I'm doing the full match, maybe I'm doing 10%, and I really want to make sure that my retirement's okay, do that one. But you know, you're absolutely right, but if this is 4 times a month, then it kind of adds up, but I agree with you. So when I was a lot younger, had a lot less gray hair, they introduced this, and I got really excited about it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is great, you all should be doing this. You gotta go out and do the Roth. Never pay income tax on the gains. And so then I come here and have that speech, people get excited about it, they go back and they change. The 10% that they're putting away, they put it in the Roth. I thought, did a good job. This is great. Then I go back a quarter later, and I saw people reducing how much they put in the 401k. I did not tell them to do that. So then, what's your first name?
Kirsten.
Kirsten? So I call Kirsten. I say, hey Kirsten, this is Chad. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing, who's this again? This is Chad, it's the 401k guy from Merrill Lynch. Oh yeah, I remember. Hey, I did the Roth. That's great, Kirsten. So, did you do anything else? Oh yeah, I had to reduce my contribution. Why'd you do that? Because you got my husband mad at me is why I did that. So what I ignored was the fact that, hey, I didn't warn people, your paycheck's gonna go down if you do the Roth because I have to pay those taxes right now. This is better. Because when you retire, you'll never pay income tax on the gains. The problem is a lot of us need the take-home money that we have. It just makes you normal. So here's my test. If you said, look, okay, put you in the corner, which one of these things is better? The Roth's better. Never pay income tax on the growth, that's good. This one's better for your paycheck today. Does that make sense? Does that help you? I don't care whether you do the Roth or not, it doesn't affect my pay. But I get a little bit nervous when I see groups of people, especially with the younger people, that aren't doing that. So here's my ask. If you're not tight at home and things are okay, if you're willing to add 1%, you can do both of these. So let's say you're doing 4% here now, and you can afford to add 1, add it here. And just start doing the Roth. Does that make sense? 1% is not gonna hurt your check. You can of pop, or please nobody smoke a cigarette, or something like that, right? So if you are able to add 1, 2, 3%, consider doing it over here. Give yourself a little pot of money that you never have to share with anybody else. That'd be pretty cool. Does it make sense? Any questions on the Roth? So if I do the Roth, I still get the match. If I do the Roth, I have the same investments to choose from. I can still do the models. Nothing changes except for when I pay income taxes. Any questions? Okay. I'm gonna skip that one. Let me spend just a little bit more time. So I'm going to go with the back side of this. I just want to show you what the inside looks like. So this is the year 2025. I really apologize in the back. That's got to be hard to see. I'm sorry. What I'm looking at is the 2025. So that would be somebody that's going to retire in how long? 6 years, huh? Less than 6 years? So somebody's pretty close. So when that person picks the 2025, we go through and load these up for them. So 10% goes into the Columbia MidCap, 2% into Janus Henderson, and I won't read the rest of them. But we divide it up for them. Once a quarter, we go in and adjust it back for you. So we get it back to here. And then as we get closer to that retirement year, we get safer and safer. You with me? So if I jump up to the 2055, you'll notice the list is shorter because some of the safe things went away. A couple of the bond funds dropped off. And you're going to see bigger chunks in the more risky ones. 22% into the growth fund. That one on your list is number 8. 24% in the American funds Washington Mutual. So what happens for those people that are younger, they have more time to invest the money. We take a little bit more risk, try to make the pile bigger. Does that make sense? Once you choose one of these, assuming it's right for your age, you don't have to do anything else. We'll take it from there. We'll do all the rest of them. Any questions on the difference? Forgive me, when we had computer problems, I went through this again, just a couple things to take away from this. If you're choosing your own, safest at the top, most risky at the bottom. If you're going to pick your own, sometimes people call and say, well, how many of these things should I have? If you call and ask for my help, you're going to end up with about 8 or 9 of them. Because that's what it takes to have decent, good asset allocation. You'll have some in the safe area and some in the higher growth area. If you do it, if you use the models, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the 2055. So that's what we would tell you is the appropriate model. Please, 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 if you do it on your own, do not have less than 5. Right? That's gambling. You'll pick lucky number 4. Don't do that. Okay, and then the target dates. Obviously, the target date, just as you said, this coincides with your retirement year. What excellent questions are you going to ask me this year? Anybody? Nothing? I'm sorry?
About the fees.
About the fees.
Some fees.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. So you went through a transition last year. And so for the first time, if you look at your statement, you're going to see fees that you never saw before. What we did is, the Obama administration took their Department of Labor and they said, look, we don't care what the financial people are doing, but we think they should disclose it. We think the Obama administration believed that you should be able to look at a statement and see everything you're paying for. And up until that point, we had something called an expense ratio. Anybody ever heard of that? Inside of a mutual fund? So inside of all the mutual funds that we have, each one of these has expenses that you and I don't see. By law, I can only show you return numbers that are net of expenses, after expenses, right? So this is after all of us have paid to use those. What the Obama administration was so frustrated with is inside of these, every one of these funds was overcharging and then rebating money back to the plan to pay for expenses. That's the expenses that you now see. So Merrill Lynch and one other firm, I think it's JP Morgan, were the only two that continued on with that process. So when Trump was elected, everybody in the financial industry went, phew, finally, so let him get rid of that so we don't have to deal with that anymore. And Trump didn't do that. Trump said, you guys want to make this law? Put it into law. But like a lot of things today, it takes bipartisanship. You need people from both sides to work together, and that's happening like all the time, right? Just make sure you're paying attention. So it's not happening, so it's sunsetted. It didn't become law. Those two companies, my company and JP Morgan, they kept going forward. So in ours now, you can see it, which means the expense ratio dropped significantly. But all they did is they took those expenses out and we show them to you now. Yeah. So I was gonna lead up to the end of that story. Your entire population now pays less for the investments when you add all of those together. The only difference is you can see them now, and before you couldn't. Yeah. If you want to call me, I'll walk you through that on your statement and show you kind of an old version. But it's a great question. What other questions do you have? Okay, number one. I got 3 assignments for you. What's the first one?
Change of beneficiary.
Yeah, update it. Just make sure it's exactly right? Nobody should, your loved one shouldn't have to try to straighten that out after you're gone. Lord forbid if something happens to you. So please, beneficiaries. What's my second assignment? Yeah, it's a great one. So that'd be 4 assignments. But so if you're not using the models, consider using one of the models that line up for your retirement date. My second assignment for you is, hey, can you afford to add 1% or 2%? If I make $1,000 pay period, 1% is how much?
$10.
$10. Right? So I'm begging you to consider doing that. My last request is, if you can afford to do something extra, I want you to consider something. What is it?
The Roth.
Yeah, and so there's a good news, bad news. The good news is I never pay taxes on my growth, right? So I want everybody to consider that. The bad news is I'm going to take less home today. It's not a huge amount less, you're absolutely right, but it is less, and I don't want you to be surprised when that happens. Occasionally I get a question from somebody that says, hey, I've only got 10 years left, or I've only got 5 years left. I shouldn't do a Roth, right? What would your answer be?
If you can do it, if you do it.
Yeah, it's funny, a lot of my industry would agree with the person that says that. I do not. And my response to that is, when I retire, how long am I going to live in retirement? If I'm female, average age is 86. If I'm male, average age is 84. We're catching you.
Yeah.
So if I retire at age 65, I'm going to be retired for 10, 15, 20 years, right? So some of my money is going to have to grow that long. So somebody asked me, hey, should I do a Roth if I only have 5 years left? Yes! Get yourself a little pot of money that you don't have to share with anybody, and then spend it last. Right? Don't spend that one till the very end. Give it a chance to grow. What if I die first? What if I die with money? And then your beneficiary gets it. In my case, hey, maybe my kids end up with it. How much tax do they pay on Dad's Roth? Nothing. Right? So that's a great option. The only time you shouldn't be considering it is when things are tight at home, because that's just going to make it a little worse on the paycheck. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. You got a question?
Yeah. If the minimum to be matched is 4%, what's the max?
It's a great question. So let me go through the match. So I can put in 1% of my money, and MDM is going to give me 1%. If I put in 2%, they'll give me 2%. I put in 3, they'll give me 3. I put in 4, they give me 4. I put in 5, they give me 4. So they match up to 4. That's it. Thank you for making me clarify that. So the match is 1% up to 4%. It's a good match. The average match today is about 50 cents on the dollar up to 6. Right? So you get 4. I'm sorry, you get 3 in that scenario. You guys get 4. All you got to do is put in 4 of your own money.
So if you're doing both Roth and non-Roth, do you get to choose which one they
God, you guys are.
Match.
They match?
That is a
Or do
good
they match
question,
both?
and nobody catches that. So but I said at the beginning, no matter which one I do, I get the match. But I think what you asked me is, where does the match go?
Yeah.
The match goes to the traditional, right?
Oh,
I agree, I don't like it, but because if the match followed you into the Roth, you'd have to pay income tax on the match too. So that would really be hard on checks. So I would love it if it followed into the Roth, but I'd hate what it does to your check. It's a really good question.
Wait, so if you do Roth, you don't get matched?
If you do the Roth, you get the match, but the match goes to that traditional IRA bucket. Traditional 401k.
If you have both, correct?
Yes.
Let's go, that's a great question. Let's stop for just a minute. So this particular person put $100 in, and that person put $100 in. This person's goes into the Roth. They both get the 4% match, but this person's 4% is going to go into the traditional. They both get the match. but only the money that he or she puts in goes into the Roth. The money that MDM puts in goes into the other side. Does that make sense? If it didn't, you'd have to pay income tax on the match.
$200 versus $100.
Yeah, it actually works out to be, so if I put in $100, they're gonna put in 40 on my behalf, right? In this case, because it's 10%, they're only matching the first 4, yeah. So I would love it to go under the Roth, but it would be even harder on the paychecks.
But that's only if you have both, correct?
Nope,
No?
nope, if all I did was the Roth, I'm gonna still end up with both buckets, because my match is gonna go here. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, we'll keep talking about it. That's a good question. So both of these individuals are gonna get the match. If this person puts their money in the traditional 401k, that's where the match is gonna go to, right? Because they don't have to pay tax on either one of them. This person puts all of their money in the Roth, and when MDM puts in the match is gonna end up over here. If it didn't end up over here, not only would you have to pay income tax on the money you put in, but you'd have to pay income tax on the match as well, which would be tough.
What if you agree to it?
I'm sorry?
What if you agree to it, to pay the taxes and have it stay in the Roth?
You know, it's funny, you could set up a plan that way, this one's not like that, but it's still, it's a good point, you could do that if a person could afford to.
So is it automatic? Is it automatic that it goes into the transition?
Yes, the match,
The match?
yep, yep, and in fact, you can't stop it from doing that. You can only determine where your money goes. See, this is what I'm afraid of. These are all really good questions, and I'm glad you're asking it with everybody else around, because a lot of times we have the same questions, I just don't want to say anything. Right? But those are good questions. I'm glad you guys are asking. Ladies are asking. What else? No other questions? Investments, no matter which one I do, the investments are the same. Both of them get the match. My point for you guys is, if you're not doing it today and you can afford to add one, then consider doing the one over here, because I'm convinced that's not gonna kill your paycheck.
So, say we're doing like where we have you automatically investing for us, especially at my age where you can invest more aggressively and everything.
Yep.
But then we decided we would like at least one of our portion of our investment to go to this certain direction. Can we get that set up? Where it's just that one and then the rest of it's kind of just automatic still, or would I have to take full control of my entire 401k and what the investments are going to?
Also a good question. So let me rephrase it. If I liked this, but I didn't want to put all my money there, could I take some of it and do my own investing? Sorry. And do my own investing here? The answer is absolutely, right? So I could have 40% of my money or half of my money going into the 2045, so that is automatic. We're investing that for you and we're adjusting it. And if you said, along with what you guys are doing, I want to do some more in international. You guys aren't doing enough international, or I don't want to take as much risk and I want to do some more safe stuff. And you can absolutely build that on the side, and we won't touch that. The only thing that we're going to adjust is the goal manager side of it. You can do as little or as much as you want in there, including 100% or nothing. What else? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for coming.
Yep, thank you for helping with my technology.